So this is a series of video clips that kind of comprise a weekly recap of the Oregon standoff trial. Uh, this week, the prosecution, after only about 9 days of presentation of evidence, in other words, there was a full day of opening statements, and then took less than 9 days to present their evidence, presented all the evidence they had in the case and rested. That happened on Tuesday afternoon, and so the defense started to present evidence Wednesday and Thursday. Again, it's just a 4-day work week for the jury in the trial. There is other work that goes on in the court, and Judge Brown hears motions both before the jury comes into the courtroom in the morning and after they're excused in the afternoon, and at other times during the week, possibly including today, she may hear some motions and arguments from the attorneys on other issues other than what the jury's talking about, or what the jury is able to be present to hear. But the government wrapped up its case, and at the end of its case, basically, it put on what it called the firearms presentation, or the gun show, is how some have referred to it. It was the drama that the government was seeking to wrap up its presentation of evidence with at the end of its case. And in that portion of the evidence, they had a number of FBI agents who had been searching for evidence at the wildlife refuge after the conclusion of the occupation, and they brought in all the guns and the ammunition that were found at the refuge at that time. That consisted of 22 what are referred to as long guns, which would be rifles or shotguns, and 12 handguns, and thousands of rounds of ammunition. And it should be noted that much of this ammunition and firearms, there wasn't any direct connection between those and the defendants in this case. In other words, and I've mentioned this in several other different contexts, as far as I can tell, what happened after the Bundys were arrested and Lavoy Finicum was killed as they were en route to John Day to have a meeting there, then word got back to the refuge about what had happened, and there were probably at least 50 people there at the time, other occupiers and things like that, and they didn't know what was going on, and so a lot of them basically just packed up and took off as quickly as possible. They were like rats fleeing a sinking ship, and a lot of them were probably concerned about what might happen to them or other possible arrests, roadblocks, that sort of thing. And so they just went ahead and left the firearms. They left the place in a little bit of a mess. There's no question about that. They'd been camping out. It wasn't as tidy as it might have otherwise been. I'm sure that they had plans to tidy it up and leave it in better condition. But under the circumstances, they just packed up and left some firearms behind with them. And those are the firearms that the federal government brought in and presented as evidence to the jury in this case to demonstrate what it thought would help support its case. And I'll come back and talk about that more in the next clip.